using toku ingoa. Yeah, Andrew has been mentioned, a illness in the family, so our thoughts are with him today. I've got Andrew's speaking notes on this, and it's obviously not up there, so I'm just going to bounce back and forth. Very good, and I'll go forward a slide here. Sorry. So, just I guess this is some perspectives that Andrew wanted to convey when things that we're thinking about at Recreation Aotearoa. It does tie in very nicely with a lot of what Grant said. There's nothing we disagree with there. It pays to remind ourselves, as Grant has just done, the extent to which recreation is important relative to sport in New Zealand. This is straight out of the communications output from Sport New Zealand's Active New Zealand Survey 2018. You may be aware that they used to survey New Zealand and what New Zealand does in terms of physical activity every 3 or 4 years. We used to rely on the 2013 and 14 survey, but now they've gone to annual. So they're doing a smaller sample, but annually, and that's fantastic for us. We just get this better tracking. This is amongst young people, obviously. Non-competitive sports is the big circle, and then you've got competitive sports. Once you turn 18 into adults, and obviously this is kind of our recreation realm, the big yellow dot, people do a bit of both. That's recreation and sport. There's a semantic argument here. We spend a lot of time talking about terminology and semantics. But yeah, obviously recreation is what people do in New Zealand, and I think we all know that. But certainly my journey and my observation coming along to Sport New Zealand briefings for sort of about the last 10 years was, I guess, about 10 years ago, and I'm sort of simplifying and generalising here as I think it must have been the 9-10 data came out, and Sport New Zealand sort of said, people are doing a lot of recreation, not so much sport. We better fix that, get them back into sport. And that didn't work out. About 5 years later, they said, oh, that didn't work. People are still doing a lot of recreation, a lot of outdoor recreation, and again, less sport. We better figure that out. Perhaps we can't stop it. We better hope to understand that better. And it's only in the last, I guess, couple of years where that data has just become so unignorable, and they start expressing it better and not ignoring it and not fudging the way they express the extent to which recreation is far more popular than sport, that they are kind of embracing this language of play, active recreation and sport. And we'd like to see that language played out into strategy, and we'd like to see that strategy played out into funding. It remains to be seen. Hopefully we'll hear from Jeff Barry later today. But recreation is absolutely what Recreation Aotearoa is about, professional association for those who work in the recreation industry. This is actually an appendix. So, there's a couple of really good communication documents that Sport New Zealand put out around their Active New Zealand survey. This is from the 2018 data. But they're not super keen. It's not until the appendices that you get into them describing in a percentage terms what people actually do. So this is a participation on an annual basis. Have you done this thing in the last year? They re-included gardening after some time absent, some years of absence. Walking is a funny one for me. I think people. It's self-selected. It could be walking to McDonald's. It could be walking from my car to my office, etc., etc. But I mean, obviously, walking. A huge number of people do that. Running and jogging, but it really does pay to remind us the extent to which not only recreation but outdoor recreation is so fundamental and important to New Zealanders. They have teased out day tramp, that's over 3.5 hours, a tramp of over 3.5 hours, right up there. Big cluster of outdoor recreation activities here: mountain biking, marine fishing, canoeing, kayaking. Not down until you get to 2% rugby. But this table's actually really deceiving. And between table tennis and rugby, there's a whole bunch, including hunting, skiing, snowboarding. There's a whole lot of outdoor recreation exists between this 2% and this 8%. So outdoor recreation is what New Zealanders do on a participation basis, on an annual basis. Outdoor rec is what New Zealanders do. We're good at watching rugby. We watch a lot of rugby. We don't play it. I think rugby's got a huge participation challenge, remembering that the women's rugby game is exploding and the men's is not. So it's even, I thought, a little bit deceitful that they kind of expressed it like this, because you might get the impression that it just goes from 8% to 2% table tennis to rugby, but there's actually a whole lot of outdoor recreation in there. It's not until you get into the spreadsheets that is expressed clearly. Just as an aside, I think we should note, you've got to give credit where credit is due and take notice of things outside your realm. But kind of the group fitness classes, yoga, gym, individual workout using equipment, this is really strong and growing in New Zealand. I mean, it's not our realm, it's Skills Active's realms for sure, but there is an organisation called Exercise New Zealand, which is the professional association for people who work in that industry. But that is growing. We need to take note of that and acknowledge that people going to do exercise classes, yoga, gym is really going quickly. This is a really interesting one. So this is kind of, I guess, unfulfilled demand. This is people who are interested in doing it, more of it if they already do it, or at least trying it if they don't do it already. And outdoor recreation is really strong in this stuff. So 15%, what's that, 1 in 6, 1 in 7 people in New Zealand are either going on day tramps and want to do it more often, or are not going on day tramps and want to give it a go. That's really, really strong. And it's just really compelling to see how much the green outdoor rec stuff is through here. 1 in 8 New Zealanders wants to do more overnight tramping, even if they do it already or if they don't do it already. Canoeing, kayaking, mountain biking, skiing, marine fishing, surfing, snowboarding. There's this unmet demand. That's both a challenge and an opportunity for the outdoor recreation sector. Don't kid yourself that people don't want to do this. They definitely want to do it. They are doing it, and they want to do more of it. And I think a couple of, peak bodies for these individual forms of recreation, tramping, fishing, skiing, they've probably got a bit of a challenge here and a bit of an opportunity here, and they've got some questions to answer about what are those barriers. And I'm really keen to dig into that, because Sport New Zealand do ask about barriers. A lot of it's usually time and money and pretty predictable stuff. But with a business analyst or someone who's really keen on spreadsheets, you can probably chop that up and determine by activity, by type of activity, what are the barriers, and you could even chop that up by demographic. What is stopping South Auckland kids going on day tramps? What are the barriers to that? What are the barriers to people in the central North Island, perhaps female adults, from doing more marine fishing? Do they want to do more? So it's, we could slice and dice it to a great extent, but I guess the majority of these slides are just to convey the point that outdoor recreation is what New Zealanders do. It's fundamental to the New Zealand way of life, and there's, depending on how you describe it, it might be called an unmet demand, it might be called an opportunity, might be called a lack of facilitation, or just too many barriers, but people want to do more, a lot more. These are big numbers for unmet demand. Excellent. Another, perhaps related to this, is Recreation Aotearoa has had the privilege of, in the first round, giving out $50,000, but in the latest round, $150,000, what we call the Targeted Outdoor Activation Fund, looking at audiences who are at low participation in outdoor recreation in this view of the world, and that was 5 times oversubscribed. We've just announced the successful applicants. I know some of them in the room, and I know some unsuccessful applicants possibly in the room. It's been a real privilege, but it just ties back into those funding things you were talking about, Grant. There's just this massive unmet demand. There is organisations out there, and I know a lot of you in the room, who could be pumping many more under-participating demographics through the fantastic experiences that Grant conveyed so well, getting kids into the outdoors. I think this makes a compelling case to any funder that we know the people out there who want to do more of this. We know there are barriers. There are people who, given funding, could achieve this. Let's go. So, I mean, there's the inherent organic benefit of putting some money out there with some providers and getting some underprivileged or under-participating kids into the outdoors. The secondary benefit is we learn from that. So a big part of it is about recording and developing case studies of each successful applicant about how they engaged with that underrepresented community or under-participating community or demographic, and they pass on that learning via case studies, and we've invested a bit of money into that. So even those who are unsuccessful applicants or who didn't apply at all can learn from the successful organisations about how to engage with those demographics, how to engage with those communities and get them into the outdoors. Excuse me. So these are some of the learnings that we've learned so far from the Outdoor Activity Fund, and we're working hard to pass them on. I'll let you read those in your own time. And for some organisations, it needs a bit of a mindset shift. Abseiling's not always popular with South Auckland kids. Surprise, surprise. I like climbing mountains, but not everyone else does. Some good learnings there. So, Recreation Aotearoa is nearing the end of its 5-year strategy. Every organisation has a strategy or a 5-year plan, I suspect. And we're formulating ours, and will become operative in July 2020. And in the process of doing that, we have surveyed many people, many of our members, but not just our members. I'll just grab it over here. So I think the survey is still open, and we encourage you, if you haven't got hold of that as a Recreation Aotearoa member, you don't have to be a member, but we'd love to for you to fill out that survey. We just want people who are involved in recreation to express their thoughts about the recreation sector, so we can build that into our strategy. Interestingly enough, we chop, people can identify from the outdoor rec or aquatics or parks and open spaces or community rec, or you can be both. The feedback we're getting from the hundreds of people who have filled out that survey around their views on the recreation sector, these are the things that are kind of coming up. Environmental changes are seen as the biggest challenges or the biggest thing going on in our sector coming through: biodiversity crisis, climate change, social changes, demographics, migrations. These are the things that you guys, recreation professionals, and your colleagues are identifying as being the biggest influences on our sector, and workforce training gaps. More broadly, outdoor, I'm just going off the top of my head now, more broadly in the broader recreation, not just outdoor recreation, people were talking again strongly about that environmental challenge, climate change and what that will mean. I think a lot of infrastructure providers and land managers are dealing with climate change on a daily basis. I know dockers, increased storm events, longer droughts, more flooding, that kind of thing. Urbanisation and the degree to which urbanisation and property development is encroaching on green spaces proximate to where people live. That's impinging on a metric that we like, which is we want a certain amount of people living within 500 metres of a park or a green space, and that metric's going down as pressure comes on green spaces in cities. But in the broader recreation sector, people are talking about the baby boomers reaching retirement, and this, they call it the grey tsunami, or the people reaching a huge demographic reaching retirement age. And that's really dominating the thoughts of people who work not so much in the outdoor recreation sector, but the broader recreation sector, the challenges that holds for them. And there's an interesting little contrast, and I'll let Sport New Zealand talk about their strategy, but they've made some tough choices. They can't do everything, but they have made the choice that they're going to focus on rangatahi and tamariki. So that I'm putting out there without any judgment or criticism, but there is a bit of a contrast between Sport New Zealand's strategy seems to be focused on young people, very much young, get them young and keep them active. Where our members, and not just our members, but other people involved in the broader recreation sector, are seeing more of a challenge, more pressures coming on at end of lifespan, that these people will be demanding the recreation. People are, as they enter retirement, are going to be the big customer base for recreation. So we are still consulting on the evolution of our strategic plan. We welcome your input to that as members. And please, if you haven't already filled out that survey to express your thoughts on the broader macro issues around recreation, we'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm Andrew Leslie. I'm here all day. Thanks very much, Ben. And thanks to Grant and Ben for putting on today. It's not easy, we know that. So thank you very much.
Thanks.